Hello, hello. Hi. I'm just running through a couple of things, quick little workshops, and I see I've got no students signed up for the early ones, so I figured I'd just work my way through this, do a quick little example of each. Green screen's kind of going crazy with my face, so please ignore that. All right, so the idea is as follows. We're going to be working through a couple of these lessons for anybody who needs that extra support. Currently, I'm myself and the class are working on lesson 13, well, 12 and 13. But I want to go through, oh, there's our little alien Tom. We want to be able to support you in making your creations come to life, just like that little guy right there. So that's the idea of this section. So really fast, I'm just gonna walk through a couple of the early lessons. I'm gonna consider this to be, in terms of the workshops, this is going to be kind of the blue circle. And in a few minutes, I'll also record hopefully a yellow triangle, and then later on support for black diamond. So the idea with blue circle is basic coding, making basic shapes show up on your page, and then maybe including things like variables and random. Now variables start out pretty simply, but then they get a little more complicated depending on how you use these things. So we're gonna just take a super fast dive at how to draw some shapes. So really it's gonna begin around lesson 3. So the basic idea, and you can work your way through these at your own pace, of course. How to do fill, how to do ellipses and rectangles. This is all pretty straightforward. You simply drag and drop the commands into here. So they start out with rectangles. The thing to remember is that the coordinates are designated as follows. So it goes draw a rectangle at X location and Y location. And what that means is when you go over to actually drawing these things on this grid, right? So the idea is when I show the grid, this will give you those coordinates. So this is telling me to draw a rectangle at 200 and 300. So I go over until 200, okay, about there, and then 300's down here. So that's the idea, okay? That's really straightforward. When I click run, you will see it draws a rectangle at each of these locations. And if I go big, you can see that. It'll draw 5 rectangles, and there they are over there, and you can see them on the grid. The trick is, of course, to turn off the grid, and it hides it, okay? So you can change these, you can modify these. Now, I did want to show you one more thing about this, and it's kind of hidden underneath, and this is about the size of the shape. And if you look at this, it's got the little arrow, so I can pop that over twice, and what these are is designations of how big to draw the rectangle. So I could have it drawn 10 by 10, and that would be 10 on the x-axis, so 10 horizontal and 10 tall. And when I draw that, you'll see that if I press this and I repopulate it, it will make that one rectangle itty bitty. See the little one? Yeah, that's what this is. And if I change these locations and these sizes, you'll see that it will change that. So let's do one that's 250 and 100. And it's no longer a square, it'll be a rectangle, and you can see it's positioned down at the bottom. In fact, it's so far down at the bottom, it's off the grid page, right? So I can maybe bring that back on by saying 100 by 100, and I can change that where that rectangle shows up. Now, in order to tell all the difference, later on you might jump into something where you're filling it in with color, or you might be drawing ellipses. So here we've got one where you're filling them with blue using the fill command. Pro tip when it comes to anything to do with the color. First of all, you can just write a color in, like I can change these to green just by changing the green code in the block there and run it again, and now they're all green, right? You can also grab this little drop-down menu, and there's also the RGB. That stands for red, green, blue, and it's always in that order. How much red to put in it, how much green to put in it, how much blue to put in it. And it's a number system that goes from 0 up to 255. So right now, this would be dialing it to 255 on the red and 0 and 0 on the green and blue. So what color is going to come out? That's right, it's going to be red. There we go. Now, this can get fun when you start working in random numbers later on, you can actually put random numbers in for the colors, and it'll randomly assign colors, which is kind of fun. I can also change it up by adding another fill command right here. And so all of these ones will be drawn with that red RGB code, and these ones from here down will be drawn with the yellow. And so you'll see when I refresh, it'll make some of the rectangles over on the far side there red and others yellow. This is a neat way to be able to tell the difference between your shapes. You can change the color, and then if you need to, you can change it back. Get to customize it, change the size of the rectangles, and so on. Okay, so that's essentially the basics of drawing. Don't forget, you also do the exact same things with ellipses. If you need to reset it, like maybe you messed around with it and you can't get it to go back, or if you wanted to, you can always reset the version history. So if I wanted to reset this to what it was before, I can just click on that version history and I can go back a little, or I can go all the way back to the beginning, right? I'll restart. Now be careful with that, because then you got to do it all again. But now it's reset to what it was before. This one is in particular is debugging, which is all about placement of those petals. But you can mess around with the other settings too. All right, so this is the basics of drawing, how you can actually populate shapes and colors in here, how to move them around, and how to scale them up or down. All right, next, after this, we're gonna move on to the next part of this, which is, let me jump back to this slide here. We're gonna talk about variables and randomness. So remember back, I'm not gonna necessarily show all of the lessons of that. That's 2 lessons worth, but we'll jump ahead a little. I want to have access to variables. So there's videos for each of these. So I do recommend watching those videos. It's really good to do so. I'm gonna dive into this one because I haven't done it yet. Okay, so it's naming variables. Now, here's a really important thing. Let me reset my version history and you'll see what's going on. So when you populate a variable, you're basically telling the computer, hey, there's an error codes here. I'm gonna have to go back one to show you. All right, so in these blocks, so how this works is, let me just tick out. Oh, that's not gonna work. Okay, 1 second. All right, so how this works is this is telling the computer program there's going to be a variable, make a variable, and it's going to have a name, X position, and then it can actually give it a value. And then there's also another variable, in this case it's called what's the Y, and that's given a value as well. The names really, really matter here. So what I'm talking about is there's a couple of rules when it comes to names. Cannot have a number first. No numbers first. It cannot have any spaces. And whether it's capital, either uppercase or lowercase, that really matters. So exposition is actually different than exposition, right? So let me show you what I mean. I'm gonna copy and paste this. Copy. I go into text mode just so I can do that. Oh, I can't change this. Ooh. All right. Why is that not? I guess this is not gonna let me. But anyway, exposition with the capital P would not be the same as exposition with a lowercase p. Those would actually, the computer would think that's 2 different variables. All right. So you'll also see that this little way of naming things that they show here, what's the Y, that's called camel case. I'll show you what that means. So the very first letter, that W, isn't capitalized. Then when they get to the next word, the T in the is capitalized. This is just kind of a naming tradition. It's not a rule per se. You don't have to do it this way, but you'll run into this a lot. The T in the is capitalized, and the Y in Y is capitalized because it's the new part of the new word. Now, people can also use underscores for this sometimes, or they could just write it all together in one big chain of lowercase letters. But no matter what, it doesn't really matter what you name it other than the number thing and no space thing. So long as when you make a variable, when you call on that variable, it must be exactly the same name. It must have the exact capitals, must have the exact same spelling, exact same numbers, no spaces, all of that. It's got to be exactly the same. If it's in any way different, the computer doesn't know what it is, right? So you just got to make sure that exact capitalization, exact name is true, and then you will have very few problems with your variables. Okay, so that's variables in a real quick nutshell. I'm just going to jump over to show you something we can do with variables. I haven't really messed around with these actually, so let's go back one. Okay, so in this one, I'm gonna do this. It says make the eyes of that shape vary every time you run the program. So let me jump back to my original history here. And start over. Okay. So here, I'll show the blocks because blocks are easier to see. And then I find it's easier to change the code under text. But let's take a look at the blocks. So the idea is you've got eye size is our variable that is made here, right? Creates eye size with that camel case writing, and it sets it at 27 just to get it started. Then it's got no outline, no stroke, and the background should be green. So that's explaining this as it goes. I'm gonna keep scrolling. Okay, so then they've added a little helpful comment here. That's a good idea. And to make that, you do / in your code in the text version, and the computer doesn't execute that. It just uses it as a comment to help you stay organized. So the face is made of a yellow filled ellipse. This position, X and Y, and this size, 200 and 200. Okay, so it's made a circle. That's the yellow circle part of the code. I scroll down a little more, I see eyes. So here's the eyes, fill them with black, make the ellipses this size, and, this position, right? And another one at this position, and then it changes the size. Well, actually it doesn't. Here's what happens. It says eye size as the size of the eye. Now that's a bit weird, but then we remember we have created a variable called eye size way up there. Okay, and it will, wherever the computer program sees eye size, it goes, oh, I know that. It's 27. And so it will automatically take whatever number's there and put it right there where you drop your variable, right? Sort of like math. Wherever there's an X, it'll be like, oh, I put the X in, right? In this case, it's eye size, and you get to name it. So they can be a bunch of different things, right? Now, the other one doesn't have that, and it just stays static at 10. And that's why when we're looking at this, this little guy, if I run this, you can see on the far side over there, one eye is itty bitty, that's the 10, and the other one is that other larger size at 27. And no matter how many times I reset and run this, they stay the same. So the variable's not doing a whole lot right now. But we are asked in our do this, it's asking us to make it random, right? You use different sizes for, well, actually, it doesn't ask us to do it random in this case, but we totally could, okay? So I'm gonna do 2 lessons at once. This is variables, so wherever it says eye size, it'll pull that from above and drop it in. Now, I'm asked to change the size of these eyes, and I'm gonna have some fun. It's not even in my toolbox, but I'm gonna go to show text, and I'm gonna make eye size a variable, a random number. So eye size is up there, currently set to 27. I'm gonna make it, just for fun, it's not part of this, I'm gonna start typing, and as I start typing, it'll pull up everything that I can do with R, and you'll see the top one right there, random number, and it does matter to have the capital, right? I'm just gonna go back a sec, number, and it doesn't have the options here, but when you check out the variable one, you have to set a range. It can be anywhere from 0 to 400 or 4,000. So I'm gonna set it from 0 to, or let's say 1, so it still has a tiny little pixel, from 1 to 400. Okay, just to see what that does. And it has to be in brackets. Okay, so 1, I'll zoom in. Ah, wrong button. Too many buttons. Sorry. Let's do that again. So let's do 1 and the opposite. Hey, Tom. 1 to 100. Let's keep it nice and easy. Now, if I mess this up at some point, it'll let me know, but I think it's okay. And there we go. So now when I go back to show blocks, you'll see I've got that random number thing that's in next lesson. It's got the block in here. It recognizes it, even if it's not part of the toolbox. Okay, let's now run this and see what happens. Okay, not much. Oh, wait. Ooh, that one eye is going wild. Check that out. All right, fun. Now, what if I want both eyes? Well, that's pretty straightforward. Remember where it says the one eye should be set to eye size? I can make the other one also eye size. I could also put a different random number in if I would like, right? Either one of those would work. So I'm gonna go down to this bottom line of code right there. I'm gonna type in I capital S size, and I'll do the same on the other one. I'm kind of curious actually what would happen if I only put it in the one. Let's see. Woo! Woo! It's messing with the horizontal, but not the vertical. That's fun. All right, so I can make them totally the same, but different random eye size here. And you'll see they both end up being the exact same size, and it'll be between the range of 1 and 100. So that's just a quick intro to variables and random numbers. If you have any questions, please hit me up in class, and I will see you soon. Don't forget, yeah, you can also message me if it's past time. Thanks. I use Creative Commons music for these, so just in case this is up on YouTube, here they are. Credits for all the music that I have randomly cycling through. It's the current one's playing there, but yeah, there's a whole bunch. So thank you to those people for letting me use their music to, you know, be background music to my day. Hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon. Man, I got a lot of music.